Hey Bashar, this is Michael from Tel Aviv, and I am excited to be asking you another question. I heard you say that story structure is built into our psyche, and the story structure allows us to have such beautiful experiences and very meaningful experiences and real experiences that are very deep and moving. My question is it only built into the psyche, or is it the same or similar on the spirit levels? Thank you, and good day.
It exists on many different levels in a certain way. It's not experienced quite the same way as a crystallized form other than in physical reality. There's more malleability to it, different perspectives that can be added, different elements that come up on different levels of reality than the elements that are part of story structure on Earth. And the story structure can also change from civilization to civilization, even within the physical universe. But the basic underlying idea of story structure exists on many levels as simply the patterns or frequencies of energy that are incorporated into consciousness on that level that are most available or receptive to the delivery and the retention of information and knowledge.
To Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Really excited to be here. Excited to talk to you.
As are we.
About the flash matrix that you shared with us before.
Yes. What about it?
First question is that the spirals, should we have the spirals 55 in one direction and 34 in another, like the sunflower pattern? Or
it would be wise to copy from nature, yes.
Yes, great. Second question about the flash matrix. Does the end of each spiral touch the crystal at the center and at the periphery of the hemispheres, or is there a small distance in between them?
Generally, there is a small gap.
Okay, and is there a measurement to that gap that we should be aware of?
It will depend upon the scale of what you are creating, of course. But the idea is it should be in proportion. In proportion, the same kind of gap as exists between the synapses of your brain.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
But in proportion to the scale.
Okay, yeah, we could figure that out. Thank you. Last question on the flash matrix. Is 2 millimeter acrylic a good insulator for the spirals?
Perhaps it would suggest you go to 3.
3. Okay, because they are interwoven, the spirals.
We understand.
Right. Yes, okay. 3 millimeters. Awesome. Thank you. From your perspective, what would you say the purpose of the government is?
A government or the government?
A government.
Well, again, like in our system, we have those that amplify guidance, amplify synchronicity, allow there to be a kind of a vibrational pattern set up of energy that serves the best of all concerns so that our experience of synchronism can continue along the path of least resistance for all individuals contained within that particular society or system. So it's more of an amplification and guidance system by individuals who are willing to serve in that capacity.
Right. So it sounds like that can be translated in our reality in a very similar way as almost an education system that is sharing with people the nature of reality.
It's certainly closer to the educational idea, yes.
Right. And making sure everyone has, in a sense, what they need,
yes.
At least as basic needs in order to thrive.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, really like that. And I'm not sure if you can comment too much on this, but our Constitution, is there anything that if you scan our Constitution that you would see would be a great either addition or transformation that you would see as beneficial to us?
Well, certainly the idea of not being in a position where you need to explain the obvious.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you have many different changes and addendums and alterations and things that you bring about in your laws, including in your Constitution, because you feel that individuals don't understand with enough clarity the basic ideas that are there to begin with in general. In other words, you have said that certain ideas ought to be self-evident, but apparently to many of the people on your planet, they're not. And therefore you have to augment them all the time with all sorts of other laws and rules to make sure that people understand the original intent. So a educational simplification that expands and contains and covers all such scenarios would be perhaps of clarification and benefit to you. For example, if the idea is that you fundamentally understand that on a basic level, all individuals should be treated equally with equal respect, then why do you need to add that it must happen for this group and that group and this group and that group, should the original idea not extend to all groups?
Right. Because in a sense, that could even create more separation and
Yes, exactly. Because you feel the need to have to include something that should have already been included in the basic concept to begin with.
Yeah, kind of like a double standard in a sense.
Yes.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have gotten the intuition that there is a crystal skull connected to or underneath the Hill of Tara in Ireland.
You're close.
Okay, because the second one, it was as if these two were in my mind, was Newgrange.
We're not going to give you much information on this except to say that it's important that you follow your instincts.
Okay. Because what my instinct also said is Newgrange is very connected to the Sirius vibration.
No comment necessary from us at this time.
Okay, thank you.
You are in mid-process. We cannot intervene.
Yes, I see that. And I was going to ask you, I've asked and received some myself, but I was going to ask you to share a circuit, a symbol for humanity at this time to come into greater balance.
That which might be called in the ancient times the symbol of the migrations or four directions, a circle with an equidistant cross in the center, representing the idea of all the directions, all the races, coming together in unity and expanding therefrom.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you. Oh, one more thing. I had a dream with you that was very exciting. You came to me and you said, whether it was you or my higher mind, I'm not entirely sure. You said...
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And whether it was you or my higher mind, it was saying there is going to be an invention or something created on your earth very soon that is a type of clothing that will be either renewable or will be more efficient, that will change things very rapidly in unexpected ways in your reality.
Yes, this is a nanotechnological invention.
Okay. And is there a time frame that you see as that being a problem?
No longer than 20 years, but we cannot pinpoint it at this time.
Okay. And what are the effects that may ripple out?
Well, the idea is the versatility of the nanotechnological fabrics that can perform many different kinds of functions in different kinds of environments, and therefore can allow people to become more adaptable to different environments and allow them to thrive in those environments because of the adaptability of the suit that they are wearing.
Right. All right, that's all I got. Thank you so much, Bashar. I appreciate it.
We thank you for the interaction. Good day to you.
Likewise.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Chad from Toronto, Canada. And my question for today is, I've been feeling myself connecting on a sort of profound spiritual level with the idea and memory of the historical figure Anne Frank. I feel sort of compelled to write about her, to learn more about her life. And I'm curious, I guess, first of all, why I would be connecting with her at this time and having a connection. And second of all, what were her galactic origins? So do we perhaps come from the same soul family, oversoul, or extraterrestrial race? Thank you very much for your question, and goodbye.
All right, but again, you're thinking in old-fashioned terms. You're not from another extraterrestrial race. While you may have created connections energetically to other extraterrestrial races from this lifetime, you might be extensions of the same oversoul. I'm not saying that you necessarily are. But obviously you have made an energetic connection to that particular historical individual who does exist simultaneously with you, because time is an illusion. You're just considering her as existing in the past from your space-time perspective. Nevertheless, one of the primary reasons that we sense you have made that connection is because the symbol that that individual represents in what you consider your history to be is someone who is holding a space for a reality that is very different from the reality that's going on around her, around you. So in a sense, she is acting like the eye of the storm. When everything around her is chaos and seems to be exceedingly negative, she is creating a space, a safe space at the center of the storm, in the eye of the storm, to hold on to the values and understandings and wisdom of the reality that she prefers. And so you're simply connecting to her in that way as a symbol archetypally, to also create a space for yourself in the eye of the storm of the chaos that is swirling around all of you at this time of transformation on your planet. She simply seemed like a very good person to connect to because she was so strong in holding that space.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
How are you?
Perfect, and you?
Something like that, I imagine.
Oh, all right.
I have a few questions about what you were speaking about earlier, the blue men.
Yes.
I was kind of on a technical level, you referred to them taking people away from Earth.
Sometimes, not always.
To experience war so that they could experience peace.
On another planet, yes.
Right. And I wasn't clear when you said that, whether you meant that was like a permanent removal or whether they...
For most, it is a permanent removal.
I guess I'm curious whether it's certain energies that came to Earth and were so negatively affected by war that they had to be removed, or is it Earth energies that have been here for so long, mired in that energy, that they need to be, like, why would they be permanently removed as opposed to returned, or like what?
Because it's their choice.
Yes, I'm curious if there's a certain kind of experience that inspires that choice within war, not just war, because not everybody goes, right?
No, it depends upon the chosen destiny of each individual as to whether or not they should leave the planet permanently. And simply the blue men have the ability to tell the difference.
And we on Earth would just think of them as missing in action forever.
You might think of them as missing. You might also think of them as dead, because many of them actually are dead before they're taken and resuscitated. So in other words, their life is over on Earth.
Right.
But they don't necessarily just go into spirit. They have chosen another path where they can actually be resuscitated and live out a physical life on another planet. It's one of the pathways that actually does exist, even though most of you don't understand that.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you say that to me, because something I've been teaching recently that manifested very quickly is I've been teaching dreamscapes workshops.
Yes.
Because there's so much richness in those realms that
yes,
teach us.
Yes.
And so we're talking a lot in these workshops about the landscapes of dreams. And so when you were describing this world, I was thinking it's somewhere maybe that I have been.
You might be visiting different places like this.
Yes, like this, like healing planets, or...
Yes.
So.
You are all aware of these things when you are dreaming. You don't always remember when you wake up.
Yeah. Another dreaming question, because I talked to you about cityscapes and you told me I spent a lot of time in those, and I've
yes.
had experience since the last time we talked in sort of becoming more coherent in those spaces.
Yes.
And I recently had this dream, 2 dream questions about 2 different dreamscapes. The first one is more of a puzzle. I was in a like a portal or a multi-dimensional Victorian house.
Yes.
And all the rooms were chapters of my life that I could, and maybe not even just mine, but like my energy.
Right. Well, that's a very creative way to look at the idea of parallel probabilities.
Right. And there's a guide in this stream who's sitting at a round table on the first floor while I'm walking up and down the stairs, moving boxes, thinking I have to leave. And in the midst of me walking up the stairs, this guide, I have an understanding that this guide is watching over me because I have a power with language and words. We've talked about this.
Yes.
But the power has as it was described to me, a dangerousness. And
well, only if you use it in a negative way. In other words, you have to be responsible for how you use the vibrations, how you communicate.
Yes, interesting. Okay, and then, so that's clear. And then the second dream question about that compact mirror butterfly energy that spun in 360 degrees.
Yes, what about it?
And I said, is that butterfly energy? And you said, no, not quite.
Yes.
And then I said, what? And you said, we'll talk about it now.
And
I was wondering if we could talk more about it now, and you could tell me what beyond butterfly energy that represents.
Well, I already told you how to connect to them more.
Yes, but I mean through that symbol, because mirrors have come up and butterflies have come up. And if there's a combination of that in my dreaming, that's something a little bit further than both, I'd love to know.
It has to do with migration. It has to do with flying farther. It has to do with spreading seeds, spreading information to farther and farther distances. It has to do with carrying information aloft and taking it to places more exotic than where you've been.
Great. So that's why I asked about that dream image, because I didn't make that connection. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bashar, I love you.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.
Hello again, Bashar. My name is Ian, and I am currently coming to you from my hometown of Port Macquarie, New South Wales, Australia. And my question is, how can people get better at remembering in the present the actions of their future selves, so as to avoid any potentially regrettable futures for their present selves? I hope that makes sense. Thank you very much. That is all. Good day.
Well, first and foremost, you're defining the idea that if you're actually in the vibration of your true present self, that could somehow contain the idea you call a regrettable future. You have to separate those things and not combine them together, because the definition of being in your true self and in your passion cannot possibly vibrationally contain the idea of a regrettable future. All you're simply saying is you're holding on to belief systems that you would probably prefer to let go of, that say that somehow by acting on your passion and moving forward in the way that you prefer to, that something would somehow go wrong. That's not a definition of a vibration of your true self. That's a different definitional vibration. So you have to decide whether or not you want to keep connecting that other definition to your passion, or whether you want to realize that it has nothing to do with the vibration of what you can experience in the reality of your passion.
Shivai Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I have a number of questions to ask you. And we'll start out with the number one about preferences. You speak about preferences a fair amount.
Yes.
And I'm curious about what determines preferences, like interest in arts or science or type of music, the work we choose. Are they the soul's themes we're exploring in life? Are they influenced?
Preferences are what aligns with your passion. It aligns with who you really are, what represents your path, your particular search, your particular investigation as this particular individual in this lifetime.
I see. And are they influenced by our DNA or physiology or life's experiences?
They can be, but they're more influenced by what you believe to be true.
Oh, okay. Fascinating. In terms of themes that we're exploring in life, as you were saying,
yes,
the themes that we're exploring, are they related, or are there general themes that the Oversoul is exploring with us, or how does the connection?
Yes, it's more about the idea in general of transformation from one thing to another. The specifics are usually revealed in whatever the challenges are that come up in your life. That's usually a revelation of the specifics of the theme. Transform this, now transform that.
Gotcha. Thank you. I'm curious about the hybrid children. You've talked about
Yes.
this planet being toxic with the air, food, water, and EMFs. How
Yes.
will the hybrid children deal with the environmental pollutants and pathogens? How do they do that?
Well, the idea is that they do have ways of dealing with that to some degree, but by the time they actually come in full force, those things will have been somewhat diminished.
Okay, great. Question I've been wanting to ask you for 13 years now.
Yeah.
Sexuality is such a powerful driving force on this planet. What is it about that, and why do sexual boundary crossings and violations have such a profound impact on the human psyche?
Well, again, it's about anything being done either for positive reasons in alignment with your true self or negative reasons that are out of alignment. The sexuality itself is one way to allow yourself to align with energies that are physical in nature and allow you to ground yourself in the earth vibration as an expression of nature. And when utilized in very positive ways of integrity and equality, then the ideas can profoundly accelerate and increase the vibration of your resonance. Of course, you know that, again, anything can be used positively or negatively. So when used negatively in terms of controlling issues or self-depreciation issues or one of the various fear-based belief systems that exist on your planet that you connect to sexuality, then of course your vibration will in some sense lower.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Speaking of the ET neighborhood, several decades ago, a channel brought to me one of the most refined spirits I have ever experienced. And beyond, the purity was beyond anything I thought was possible.
All right.
The name of this being was Esarera. And it struck me how similar that name is to Esasani. Is there any relationship there? Who was this being?
There is. It's a hybrid being that you are connected with that might be representative of a counterpart. You understand that term?
Yes.
All right. So you may be dealing with a counterpart version from the same oversoul that you are an extension of, to give you a reflection for guidance synchronistically that is also connected to my reality.
Whoa. Profoundly struck by that.
All right.
Oof. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Wow, that was really helpful.
All right.
I live in the San Francisco Bay Area where the lightning storms have started many of the fires here.
How exciting.
It was actually at some level. And I had a felt sense that the lightning was conscious and then the lightning strikes were somehow intentional. That's not the right word. Is there anything to
I understand exactly what you mean. The idea, again, is to understand that weather is a reflection of the collective emotional body of your entire world. And therefore, there may be archetypal representations that, of course, if you're sensitive enough, you will sense the consciousness in, because it is an expression of the collective consciousness of your planet on an emotional basis.
Wow. Thank you. That's very enlightening, as it were.
Oh, thank you for the pun.
Infants. I'm curious about infants. You've invited us to ask the question of ourselves, what would I have to believe to be true to have this feeling I'm having?
Yes.
How does that work in infants? Do they actually have thoughts like that? Or
they're not formed that way yet. They haven't all crystallized yet into the belief system structure of the collective. So they kind of come and go and still rely on their connection to their spirit.
Oh, okay.
But they may be absorbing some of those belief systems as they grow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And given all that, what is the wisdom of all the changes that are happening now with the fires, the storms, the flooding, COVID, the political, social unrest?
Certainly you are being given a reflection of the consequences of the choices that many of you have made, and whether or not you are now willing to take responsibility, meaning the ability to respond, to make changes that are more in the direction that you really prefer. Remember, physical reality is just a mirror.
Right.
So if you don't necessarily prefer what you're seeing in the reflection, it's a good opportunity to get in touch by contrast between what you don't prefer and what you really do, and then to act accordingly. But this is the convergence time. In other words, all the different cycles of what you have created are now converging. That's what this time is all about, so that there is absolutely no mistaking the consequences of the choices that have been being made.
It seems
Then
like
you get to decide.
Yes, it seems like the delay between our decisions and when the consequence happens seems to be, we can't seem to put those two together.
Well, you live in a reality of space-time construction, and therefore there can be what you call a delay. But it's bringing to your attention that the idea of a choice and the consequence are actually getting closer and closer, and not as much are they delayed.
Nice. Okay. I'm curious about how the Earth was populated with animals and the aquatic species and the plants. Was it DNA fragments? Was it delivered to us by other ET species? How did this?
Well, both. There is the idea of panspermia. You understand that?
Yes.
Of genetic material being delivered by asteroids and comets. There is also the idea of certain deliveries by extraterrestrial races of certain genetic material as well. It's one of the ways that nature has of expanding itself and creating evolution, is that some races develop to the point where they simply become mechanisms, not to devalue them, for the idea of the expansion and continuation of evolution of other races and other planets.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Last question. I feel like I have some connection with this third star in Orion's belt. Is there a planet? Do I have some kind of connection with?
Yes, as we have discussed sometimes, the ancient Orion systems form a very strong energetic connection for many people on Earth at this time, because it was an experience in some of the ancient Orion systems millions of years ago of experiencing very, very strong, very deep oppression, repression, some of the things you are beginning to experience more of on your planet. And therefore, this is an opportunity to connect to those ancient Orion energies of negativity and darkness and transform them into light, so that you don't necessarily have to experience the Orion path as you experienced before a long time ago on Earth again. The idea of the Earth at this time is that it is kind of a melting pot of different kinds of pathways that different souls have taken, all coming together to now live out certain experiences and attempt to transform them into more positive ones. Earth is a transformer planet.
Oh, beautiful. What an exciting time to be here.
It is.
And is the number 11 associated with that star system?
Not directly, no. More, again, the number of 13.
13. Okay, great.
Both the positive and the negative aspects of it that have come into your folklore.
Beautiful. Thank you, Bashar. I am just deeply grateful to have this contact with you.
As we also deeply appreciate the co-creation of such, our unconditional love and support to you.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Kay. I'm from Hong Kong. I want to ask about Hong Kong. This is a very challenging time for us politically. I want to know on a personal level and as a group, what kind of action or belief system that we should take in order to have a positive experience out of this. Thank you.
Well, clearly positive belief systems, positive definitions. But again, it all comes down to the distillation that we have shared with all of you that leaves nothing out. Follow the formula as best as you can, as best as you are able. Examine your belief systems and exchange the negative ones for positive ones, create positive definitions. And remember, it's not so much about what happens as it is about what you do with what happens that makes the difference. So no matter how things look, respond to them in positive ways. I'm not saying you ignore that something might be being created from a negative place, but you don't have to experience negativity just because it was created that way. If you maintain a positive relationship to the experience in your reality, you'll be able to use it to your advantage. So you have to stay in that state and see things from that viewpoint, from a more holistic perspective, and assign more positive definitions and meanings to the things in your reality. Whether they are created or you perceive that they're created negatively in other people's realities makes no difference. If you remain in that positive state, you will get the benefit from whatever happens if you keep that relationship between you and that circumstance in a positive state of being.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
We have some interesting questions from our viewers.
All right, please proceed.
Okay. The first question has to do with government knowledge of what's going on with the ETs. And the people want to know about if the members of our government have knowledge about the imminent arrival of ETs, and are they involved in making preparations for the event?
Some members are, but remember, it is not mostly the individuals you know as members of your government that are aware of these things. As has been said for quite some time, there is an organization that doesn't necessarily operate as your government that is mostly aware of what is going on with extraterrestrial involvement or proximity or contact with members on your planet. So while a few members of your government are aware of what is going on, most of the so-called preparations or avoidance of preparations are being made by the individuals that are involved with the organization that is clandestine.
Are they aware of the hybrid children coming and the preparations or enclaves where they will be placed?
Most of the individuals that are involved in that clandestine organization are aware that eventually hybrids will be among you more and more. They are not necessarily directly involved in the creation of the enclaves. That is more of something that will happen with the general public or being chosen by the Yael and the hybrid children themselves.
Okay. Can you tell us, do we have like a main galactic family, or do we have energies from galactic beings from all over the universe?
Well, not all over, no. You have a relatively close-knit connection of galactic family energy that many of you are connected to, but there is also the idea of a subgroup of that is more relevant for you to be connected to, as we have said many times. Most of you have connections, of course, to the idea of the hybrids, such as ourselves, to the Sirius civilization, to the Pleiadian civilization, some ancient Orion connections. Arcturus energy is common among you. Now, of course, the idea of the injection of Anunnaki genetics into all of you to create Homo sapien does give you some minor connections to other extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional civilizations, because the Anunnaki themselves were a mix of things. So some of those other outside connections do exist, but they're not necessarily as prevalent as the ones that we have mentioned, since those are more relevant for the idea of the transformations that you are going through, the processes that you are going through now, which require a stronger sense of the connections we have mentioned regarding the subgroup.
Okay. I'm interested to know if Sasani beings have higher density beings helping them to get to the next density.
Yes, of course. Primarily, the connection to the non-physical group consciousness of Sirius acts in a sense as our mentors to help us up the ladder as we are helping you up the ladder.
Also, are there aliens doing things underwater? Do they have bases underwater, like in places like Siberia, or are craft actually going underwater on our planet?
Yes, many craft will go underwater to be able to access some of the underwater, underground, under-ocean bases that exist there, because many beings have created some of these underwater, underground bases to make it more difficult for humans to find them, because it is more difficult with your technology to be able to access the bases if they are under the ocean.
Can people actually see them if they're down there, or are they invisible to us?
They are well hidden, although it is not impossible for, again, depending upon what depth you're at and what location you're at, for sometimes humans to be able to discern that there might be something there. Some of your satellites that scan the ocean floor and reveal the topography of the ocean floor have been able to sort of spot some of these underwater bases. But again, remember, they are underwater and underground. So there are very few signs of where these bases are. You would have to understand how to look at the topography of the ocean floor to be able to recognize where a base might actually be located, but they're well hidden.
And do they have a specific function that they're focused
Well, again,
on?
as bases, they have the function of allowing extraterrestrial races to come to the Earth and be on your planet without necessarily being discovered.
Why does the Earth have such a focus on it? Why are we so special? We keep thinking we need to find another planet to live on. How long is our Earth going to last? And why do ETs have such a fascination with our planet?
Well, there's a lot going on the Earth in terms of its diversity, both in terms of nature. There is a lot of water on the Earth that is usable by extraterrestrials as well. It is important for a variety of functions, and many UFOs have been seen over oceans and lakes, siphoning water up for various uses. The idea, of course, is that you're going through a very strong and powerful energetic transformation on your planet. So the idea of what's happening with your individual and collective consciousnesses has quite a lot to do with the interest and focus on your planet at this time. Again, the diversity that exists in nature and in humanity is of great interest to study for many societies among the stars to see what's going on. You have a very highly concentrated focus of energy in this transformation, and many other civilizations can learn from how you resolve your issues, overcome your challenges. So it's a very strong learning experience also, sociologically as a study, psychologically as a study. Many ET races are observing what's going on for a variety of these reasons that can be applied in their own civilizations or other civilizations with whom they may be in contact.
Thank you. Can you give us some information on which ET races altered our DNA over time?
Well, you have, of course, the Anunnaki, which created the idea of the original hybridization of humanity by creating Homo sapien from their own genetics and also from the naturally evolved hominid species that evolved on your planet, Homo erectus and the like. Also, of course, there have been genetic alterations with regard to your interactions with the Greys over time, obviously, toward the idea of creating the evolutionary path for Earth becoming the sixth hybrid race. There have been a few other alterations from time to time, depending upon certain encounters with other kinds of beings, but we can't necessarily go into those at this time.
Can you share anything about the alteration to our DNA and why it seems to be linked to the suffering that humans experience in this reality?
The alteration of the genetic material is not linked to the idea of suffering. It's linked to the idea of enhancing and increasing your ability to be more receptive antennas for higher frequency energies, which allow you to experience more kinds of effects, such as conscious awareness of other dimensions, telepathy, empathy, so on and so forth. The genetic alterations are not linked to the experiences of suffering. The genetic alterations allow you to transform the experiences of suffering into something less challenging, less difficult, less suffering.
Were there not alterations genetically that sort of suppressed certain aspects of our consciousness?
But you're talking about the original Anunnaki idea.
Yes.
And
yes.
in that context, yes, there may have been things that were not necessarily turned on, but many subsequent genetic alterations are allowing for the idea of those genetic markers to become active so that you can become more of your true selves in this transformational period.
How does that connect with the idea of the 12-strand DNA or those ideas?
The most you can actually physically encounter in your body or hold in your body are 3 strands, which is happening for many people in the creation of the 3rd strand. But the idea of 12 strands is simply an indication or an understanding, or perhaps even a misunderstanding, of the idea that you're connecting to higher frequency energies, which, if they could be physicalized, might represent additional strands of DNA, but they will never become physicalized beyond the third strand because your bodies cannot physically handle the physicalization of more than 3 strands of DNA. But you are capable of connecting to the energy that might represent higher level strands, but they will remain non-physical connections.
So on the idea of the original hybridization that was created to create humans, and the idea that there were certain markers, would you say, that were suppressed in that original creation?
Yes.
And how that then relates to what's happening now and going forward. The idea is that the assistance we're receiving now is allowing us to activate more of our awareness of other dimensions.
Yes, more of the markers are being activated,
okay,
which allows for ultimately the creation of the third strand of DNA.
Because isn't the source of the suffering really about the idea of being disconnected from our higher energies and people creating belief systems that are not in alignment with their true selves?
That may be how it started, but again, that's no longer the case.
Okay.
You are no longer limited in that sense.
All right. But that is the healing that's happening now, right? By becoming connected with these other levels of our consciousness, we no longer have to experience ourselves as being a disconnected species.
Correct. And again, remember, it's not that you are actually disconnected, it's that you're becoming more aware of the connections you always had. Just because there may have been a kind of suppression in the physical DNA doesn't mean that you've never had the ability to connect energetically. It's just a matter of the belief systems that were created through the suppression not necessarily making it available to your awareness that you could always have turned those markers on.
I see. Which ETs contacted the Mayans, and can you tell what information did they share with the Mayans?
This is a misunderstanding. It's not that, even though there were other ET races that were in contact with the Maya civilization, it's not that there were basically the idea of extraterrestrials contacting the Maya. The Maya are the descendants of extraterrestrials. That particular humanoid species came to Earth, established colonies, built many of the structures that you understand that exist in those regions on your planet. But in that sense, it is the Maya themselves that built those things. It's just that the descendants now, while they have the memory of their connection to those ancient ancestors, those ancient extraterrestrial ancestors that came to Earth, it's simply that some of them chose to remain on Earth when the majority of the Maya left. So the idea is that the Maya that exist today are the actual descendants of an extraterrestrial race. So it's not so much that the extraterrestrials came and visited the Maya and helped them with those structures. The Maya themselves, in their early form, actually built those structures because they are actually extraterrestrials who came to Earth.
And yet, didn't they express themselves as a more primitive civilization, in a sense, in terms of the structures they created? And they all have that idea of like the pyramids in Tikal, this pyramidal structure that seemed to be prevalent throughout the planet.
Yes. The ones for the Maya were built by the Maya. It's just that, again, remember, after the majority of the Maya extraterrestrials left, which actually are called the Mayab, the idea of the remnants that stayed, the few that stayed, created the Maya civilization as you know it, but it also devolved because they were no longer experiencing the level of technology that the original Mayab had. And also because of different things that have gone on your planet, certain destructions, certain environmental issues, encounters with individuals that conquered the civilization has allowed them to forget much of their ability that they originally had. But when those structures were originally created, they were created by the Maya when they were at their peak, before they left.
Did those ET civilizations practice human sacrifice or sacrifices and things like that,
No,
or that's all later developments
that's
by
much
humans?
later in the devolution.
Okay. Can you shed some light on the intelligent civilizations that are in the Milky Way, in the sense that it seems like there are ET groups that are non-physical, some are semi-physical, some are densely physical like we are. Is in terms of ratios of civilizations in our neighborhood, so to speak, is there any information you can share with us about how that proportionally is laid out?
We have said
or-
we are not going to discuss it that way.
Oh, okay. So, but are most of the people that we're interacting with are either semi-physical like yourself or physical? Yes?
No.
No.
There are, as we have already outlined in the monologue, a species that you refer to as the blue men,
Yes.
which are, in terms of the ones visiting you, energy that can take
Oh.
some physical form, but they are not physical in and of themselves per se, although aspects of their society on their own planets are physical. The ones that are visiting you are the ones that have learned to turn themselves into energy and can take some physical form, but they are not the same as the physical component of their society, which remains on their home world and the colony worlds that they have created.
So in terms of like the Yael are physical.
Yes,
Yes.
but they are of a high
And
vibration.
Serious consciousness is a non-physical.
Higher level serious
Serious
consciousness is
right.
non-physical, but there are physical serious beings that are amphibious that have physically visited your world in the past.
So when we're interacting with the dolphins, is that in a way like interacting with an ET species that's intelligent and physical and also connected with other levels of physicality or non-physicality?
Yes, but they're not ETs because they're not extraterrestrial, but
Right.
they are, in a sense, an alien life form to you.
I mean, in a sense, aren't they the closest to interacting with a non-human species that is highly intelligent and would be kind of like a ET group?
Yes, this is why we have recommended that many people learn to communicate and interact with dolphins and whales, because it is one of the closest representations you have on your own planet of interacting with an alien society.
That's
It's
really
good
exciting.
practice. It's good practice for
It's
interacting
definitely.
with other alien societies that truly are extraterrestrial.
So when dolphins are in the water and they're interacting with humans, and they have a wider range of understanding of what's going on in the water. For example, if someone were in danger and the dolphins decided to surround that person to protect them.
Yes. This has often happened.
Yes. Yeah, I know, because I just recently experienced that. And I just was wondering how they can tell if is it through their sonar that they know what's going on at greater distances than we're able to?
It is through
determine?
sonar and also telepathic vibrations. Remember that when you're in the water also, if you feel that you're in what you might perceive to be a dangerous situation, you're giving off a frequency that they can pick up and interpret.
Actually quite extraordinary the way that they have such a far reach in terms of knowing what's going on in the water.
Well, remember that water is highly conductive, way more conductive of vibrational energy than air.
Cool. The Sasani civilization seems to be quite balanced and happy. Can you say your culture has always been this way, or did they evolve after a certain point to reach the Sasani way of being?
We evolved, but again, remember, being a hybrid race, artificially created, and given certain advantages that you may not have had, we had a head start. So while we may have experienced certain challenges that have to do with negative energies, so on and so forth, yes, we did ultimately start out a little bit farther along the evolutionary path. Thus, at a certain point, when we experienced what we call our Shakana transformation, we linked telepathically in a matter of 3 days, and from that point forward, did not really experience the idea of disease or negativity in that sense in the same way, to the same degree, and it allowed us to accelerate our evolution greatly at that point.
Well, lucky for us, huh?
If you say so.
And as far as like ET civilizations pumping, balancing energy into the planet through vortices, is this something just your civilization is doing, or there are others that are also participating in that endeavor?
There are several others participating in that. I am not, again, going to delineate them at this point because, again, we have already begun the phase over time of talking to you about your ET neighbors and who is involved with what and why and how. And so we will lay out those particular members of extraterrestrial civilizations according to the timing of our agenda in revealing your neighbors to you. But yes, there are many that are involved.
So how does that energy impact us when the effect, in a sense, on us as humans here on the planet?
It gives you a greater ability to make shifts in the direction that you prefer when you decide to tap into that energy by being more of yourselves and acting on your passion. It can only impact you if you match the vibrations, and it's easier for you to match those vibrations that are being given to you by following your passion and raising your own frequencies. You become more aware of the other vibrations that are there for you to access.
Okay. Okay, let's switch over to a little bit about the moon.
Yes.
So a lot of people think that the moon has an influence over our levels of intuition, and I guess that the moon has some sort of mystical powers. And then, of course, you've shared with us that we are now receiving the reflection of the orbs that are surrounding your planet through our moon. Is that correct?
Yes,
So
but again, please, before you ask the question, please, everyone, remember the idea that it influences you is an old-fashioned, outdated definition. It is a reflection of what's going on with you to give you the ability to understand how to guide yourselves, how to course correct if you so desire. It doesn't influence you in the sense that it controls you. It gives you an opportunity to be aware of a certain kind of vibrational frequency that could benefit you if you allow yourself to become more aware of the guidance that it's reflecting to you.
Okay, and so like recently we've had it where both the moon and the sun are up at the same time in the sky.
What do you mean recently? That happens quite often.
I know, I guess I just tuned into it. But I was just wondering about that state and energetically how that connects with the mystical nature of the moon.
Well, it's the balance point. It's the balance point, and that's why you experience it usually at the idea of the full moon, because that is what you experience as the sun and the moon generally being up at the same time when they're on opposite sides, one setting and one rising. But the full moon shows you the opportunity to be at the balance point in the center of that which represents the physical awareness and that which represents the non-physical awareness.
So when we are connecting with the moon and also receiving that reflective energy from your world,
yes,
what is a good state of being to choose to be able to receive that fully, whatever
excitement
information?
And curiosity. The willingness to explore outer and inner reality simultaneously.
So it's really, and it's not necessarily an idea of thought as much as it is an energetic state that you open yourself up to receive that energy.
Of course, because that energetic state will then produce the thoughts that are necessary for further exploration.
And even if it doesn't provide a specific thought or information, you are physically receiving it through light in a sense.
Yes. Yes, energy. Yes, vibrations, resonance, of course.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I know a lot of people have asked questions like, how do you tune into the Akashic records or past lives and things like that? And I think it's all the same idea, isn't it? That
Yes. You perceive whatever you are the vibrational state of. But again, it helps to clarify your understanding about how these things actually work physically, how they're actually structured. Again, it begins with the understanding that everything exists at once. And when everything exists at once, then anything is accessible to you if you're on the correct vibration to access that information, because it's all here and now for you. So again, your passion, your interests, your curiosity, what attracts you is the indication of you turning the dial, in a sense, to what kind of information you will synchronistically receive by being in that state of attractiveness or curiosity to particular ideas and subjects.
And I guess using the moon as a reflection of the energy that's coming from your world also gives us something physicalized to focus on. And then you can pay attention to your state of being and just allow whatever needs to come to you and is relevant for you to be received at that moment.
Yes, we have provided you with another layer, another level of a permission slip that connects to our vibration to allow you to tap into it and make it easier for you by tapping into it to explore other dimensional realities and other layers and levels of consciousness, intelligence, and information that exists within the universe or the multiverse.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you.
It's
It's
our
very
passion and our
exciting.
pleasure.
This is a practical question about manifesting. If a person desires a new car, and is the idea that you become the person who has that wish fulfilled, or is it more the idea that, like, that's more of an old-fashioned way of looking at?
It's an old-fashioned way of looking at it, because again, you have to be careful about whether or not your desire is a true need or it is just an egotistical want. The idea, again, is that if you are following the instruction manual, the formula of acting on your passion to the best you can, with no insistence or assumption of the outcome, and remain in a positive state, no matter what occurs, to get the benefit from it, then what you need will synchronistically come to you in perfect timing if you truly need it. The idea is to let go of some of the wants, because you don't always know that what you want is what you truly need at that moment. Sometimes they can coincide, but very often they will not, because you really don't have a clue what the idea of the ideal outcome or manifestation would really be for you at that moment. So you can be open to the idea, to use your example, of the manifestation of a vehicle, of a car, but also have to be open to the idea of letting your higher mind bring you what you actually need, and being willing to explore the possibility that you may not actually need that car, even though you may want it. The idea is that when you're on a certain level, the things that are commensurate with that level will come to you if they are what you need to allow you to continue to act on your excitement. So if a car is something that you actually need to be allowed to continue to act on your excitement, then such a thing will happen in some way, shape, or form. Even if it comes down to the idea that someone will always be there to give you a ride if you don't have the car yourself. It's always going to be what's the path of least resistance. So be open to the idea of any form of the manifestation that allows you to do what you need to do. It doesn't always mean that the car has to be actually yours. It can be, if that is the path of least resistance, but don't insist on it, because you don't know that that actually is the thing you need at that moment. When you relax these insistences and assumptions about how these manifestations should occur, then they will occur as they need to occur, because the bottom line, as you say, the whole point to it is to simply allow you to continue to flow in the direction most quickly that actually is your path of least resistance.
Yeah, it really does involve changing our relationship to needs versus wants.
Yes.
And that's almost like a maturity thing too.
It
know,
is.
Because I know when
Because
we're younger, we really feel like we have to have this thing, and that's...
I know. And remember, everything is already here. You just have to match the vibrational frequency of it to allow it to become visible. But it has to be relevant for you in your life at this particular moment in order for the manifestation to occur. And it is a maturity issue, because if you understand how things work in a more mature way, you will understand that while sometimes your wants and your needs may coincide, the idea to understand is that if you always get what you truly need, you will always feel fulfilled. Whereas sometimes when you get, if you get what you want, you may not necessarily feel fulfilled because your wants and your needs don't always align.
Yes, that is definitely an old story on Earth of people chasing success or chasing things that they think will fulfill them,
Yes.
when in actuality, the real determinant of whether something satisfies you is whether it's something you need as opposed to something that you want.
Yes. But the thing of it is you don't even necessarily have to analyze what you need, because the idea is that it automatically comes to you through the organizing principle of synchronicity. It will always bring you exactly at that moment what you need. Even if what it brings you is something you don't prefer, you have to know that it's there for a reason that could serve you. And that's why the fourth point of the formula is so important, because if you simply remain in a positive state, even if something is manifested that you don't prefer, you'll be able to use what you don't prefer in a way that you do prefer. You'll learn the lesson as to why it's there. You will learn the knowledge and information you need at that moment from why it's there. And it will then disappear more quickly because you've been willing to accept it as something that needed to be in your life at that moment, so you could use it in a positive way to gain insight and knowledge into yourself. And that's what will allow you to accelerate